Welcome back to another episode of the Sky Society podcast. Today, I'll be talking with Raizel Lopez. She is a bilingual copywriter at Universal Parks and Resorts. Welcome to the Sky Society podcast.
Thank you.
I am so... Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Thanks for inviting me.
Of course. Thank you so much for coming on. You have an absolutely incredible story that I'm excited to jump on in. But today you also had a very amazing personal accomplishment. Your daughter had her first day of school today, yes?
Yeah, she did. And she's so happy and excited. She'll be 3 in November. And so I'm excited for her too. It's kind
She
of
wasn't scared going to school. She was just too excited.
Yes.
Oh, that's amazing. Okay, and you're a working mom of two, yes?
Yes, I have a 7-year-old who's in the second grade, and I have an almost 3-year-old, and I work full time.
So you're busy.
Yes, I am. So I work 24/7 because when I'm out of my Universal job, I start my mom job.
Yes, just switching from one to the other.
Yes.
All right. Well, yeah, go ahead and tell me a little bit what you do at Universal's, a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, of course. Right now, I'm a bilingual copywriter or a general copywriter because I also do a little bit of English. And I work on a multicultural team. We are dedicated to everything Spanish. So anything that goes out for the US Hispanic market and everything that goes out for LATAM, anything that's in Spanish. So we do create the versions of any English campaign, and we kind of create the versions in Spanish. Our team also does the Portuguese. We have a, a Portuguese copywriter in our team too. And, I have my manager, and he also does the Spanish, and we work together to create all this content for these markets. And that includes blogs, website, CRM, trade, anything that it's needed. So I work specifically on Popcorn, which is the in-house agency for Universal Orlando. And we create and concept all the campaigns. So hopefully we'll be creating more and more campaigns in Spanish too in the future.
That's incredible. And you are originally from Venezuela, that's correct?
Yes, I am. I was born and raised in Venezuela. I went to college in Venezuela.
And what made you move out to the US?
The situation in my country made me move to the US. I graduated from a great university in Venezuela. It's one of the top universities in the country, and I loved it. It's called Universidad Católica Andrés Bello. I went to school for communications, specifically for marketing and advertising. And I never thought I would start working in social media. Actually, my dream was always to be on the creative department, because that's what I did. A lot of internships, and one of the internships I was in the DDB agency, and that was the best internship because I got to be in like all the departments during my internship. And my favorite one was the creative one, when I was doing brainstorms and creative concepts for campaigns and TV ads, and that's what I wanted to do. But when I graduated from school, social media for businesses wasn't a thing. It was just starting up. And my first job was actually in social media. And that's how I kind of fell in love with social media and created content. And I thought it was the best of both worlds, because I love being creative, but I also love to write. So
it combines those two beautifully then.
Yeah, exactly. I've always loved writing since I was a little girl. I actually went to school only for first grade in New York. And a fun fact about me is that I started first grade without knowing any or speaking any English. By the end of the school year, I was fluent in English, and I had written a story, and it was the first story that was published at the school library by a Hispanic student. So I was
That
the
is
first Latina
amazing.
that had a story published in the school library in this very small town called Poughkeepsie in New York.
That's incredible. What a fun fact. I love that.
So
Wow. So,
I've always known since I was a little girl that I wanted to go to school for communications.
wow, literally started when you were in first grade.
Yes.
That is amazing. And so you did. So you went to school for communications, you started your career out in social media marketing, and you did it for a little bit in Venezuela before moving to the United States. And you started working for Universal Orlando Resort as a social media specialist. And you did so much while you were there. So if you could just give us like a little bit of an overview about what you did in social media marketing at Universal Orlando.
Sure. My position was a new position, and I built all the social media for Latin America. It was the first time that we were creating original content for social media for this huge market that is Latin America. And then I ended up also doing US Hispanics. I started as a social media coordinator, so I started back from zero when I immigrated. I had already been doing social media in Venezuela for about 4 years for one of the biggest in an agency, but my main client was one of the biggest companies in the country. And my biggest achievement there was in 2013. We got their Facebook page to go from 150,000 followers to 1 million followers in 4 months
I saw that. How did you get so much growth so quickly?
with a lot of content. I've always been on the content department. So, uh, we launched a campaign that was called like "Come Here," was "Llegate" in Spanish. So get here, and we would do like community management every single day, like 24/7. I had to switch with my coworker. We both doing this even on holidays, always like engaging with people. That's why I think engagement is so important. We'll do games, activities, giveaways so people could join the community. It was more of like building that community. And we also partner with the media and paid media departments uh, to create awareness that what we were doing. And we managed to get 1 million fans on the Facebook page for Movistar Venezuela, which was a local only brand for the country. So Venezuela has 30 million people, around 30 million people, and we got 1 million people fans on Facebook in 2013, with I think was huge because 99% of those people were actually from Venezuela. And this is a country that has less people than California. So um, that was like my biggest accomplishment there. And I had already all this experience coming into Universal, but I started from as a social media coordinator, which was an entry level. But I had no problem with it because I knew I could show how my experience in social media will help grow these channels. And fortunately, I was in a great team. I was able to move from coordinator to specialist very quick, and then to associate representative. And I ended up managing all of international, not only Latin America, and also domestic the last year. I I launched Universal Orlando's global pages as well. So when I got there, we only had one page for the domestic markets, and that would also reach the international markets. But I think it's very important that each audience have their own specific and tailored content. So I launched global pages. So now we have like different pages for different countries.
Can you talk about that just for 1 second? Because we'll get to more about your role in a little bit, but being a bilingual copywriter or working on a global team of the importance and value of creating that niche content for those different demographics. And so just can you touch on like, why is it valuable and important for a brand to create, you know, a page or a group specifically for one demographic instead of just creating content for, you know, every single one of their customers as a whole?
I think it's super important to create this tailored content for each audience. I've always I've always been very strategic, and I think audience first. And I don't think about what we want to tell the audience, but what they want to hear. And if you're from a certain country, of course you want to, read everything in your language, but also um, you want it to not be only a translation, but you want it to be something more, something that you would engage with. And different cultures have different jokes, have different memes, have different trends. So that is very important. So that's the best way to engage with is each audience. And
Yeah.
engagement rates are higher when you are talking, you like people feel seen and represented and talked to. So
Yeah.
that was my main goal.
One of the things that I always think of is if you go to a Starbucks in Mexico versus the United States, the menu's different, or McDonald's, right? All across the country, they serve a different menu. And the reason for that is because who they're serving is very different. And so even though it's this global chain, and yes, the name is the same, the logo is the same, most of the food is the same, they make these small adjustments to better fit into the different cultures that they're a part of when they open up a new franchise in another country. And so I like thinking that it's the same thing when we're doing marketing and we're building a community, is that it's not one size fits all for everybody everywhere, and that it's important as marketers to be able to understand that and be able to immerse yourselves into those niche cultures and create very specific content.
Yes, absolutely. That's exactly it.
Yes, yes. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about that you did there is that you created the brand voice for Universal Orlando's international channels. Can you tell me briefly about that process of creating a brand voice? Like, what is that and what does that entail?
Yeah, so we at Universal had a specific brand voice, and we had already developed kind of the brand voice for the domestic channels. But of course, the voice and personality of someone that it's not, um, American, or, they live in Latin America, they, the brand voice kind of attaches to the main brand voice, but I tailor it a little bit to what our culture as Hispanics and as Latin American is. You know, I developed kind of like these personalities, and for the brand, because I did a lot of community engagement, I used to engage with this community the whole day. So it went up from deciding uh how do we speak, like who we are, what do we like to do, kind of, kind of creating that persona. And I always thought about it like, if I did theater my whole childhood until I graduated from high school. So I feel like when I was engaging with a community, that persona that I created was the character, and I was just, acting out. And I I got myself into this character, which is the universal persona, and how do I speak and how do I engage. So they think that they're speaking to, the audience feels like more connected because they're not speaking to a brand, they're speaking to a person. And the jokes that we say in Latin America, the way we speak is kind of different. So that's how I kind of adapted, but wanted to stay in the same essence that we had. I You probably have read a lot of the tweets from Universal Orlando, and how they are very good and they have their own personality. I wanted to translate that into how we speak with the Latam community and the Hispanic community. So that's how I
Yes.
created that brand voice, and that translated even into when you wrote the blogs and any content that I used to write, very casual, informal, like friendly, like what would a friend tell you,
Yeah. And for every brand, it's different, right? And so I think that figuring out what your brand voice is so important, because one day it's you communicating with the community, and one day it could be someone else on your team. And it's going to be very confusing for your audience if the voice keeps changing depending on who's the person behind the computer, right? And so having these strict guidelines and going in and figuring out the customer persona and specifically the personality. Are they friendly? Are they casual? Are they formal? Are they funny? Are they serious? And going through and really outlining and being super clear about who the brand is. And I love how it's, not just the same for every single one of Universal Orlando's channels, that it gets so specific based off of, the different countries and the different cultures is just so powerful. And so I definitely want to touch on that for those who don't know, just that brand voice is something that companies can spend a lot of time behind. And you may take that very, we made lightheartedly, or I think of different brands that have very specific voices online and we just know them for that, but there's a lot of thought and planning and intention that goes behind it.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Raizel, you then made a little bit of a switch. So you were doing social media for a while. You had so many incredible accomplishments, and then you went over and switched into copywriting. Can you tell me a little bit about why you decided to make that switch?
Well, there was a whole year in between when I was a marketing manager outside of Universal, and that happened because of the pandemic. But I think everything happens for a reason. And then I came back to Universal as a copywriter, also working with the Hispanic segment and for Latin America. So I thought it would be a great opportunity to continue to develop that brand voice and to apply everything that I've done before, but not only for social media, but for everything. So social media, web, blogs, and campaigns. So the whole campaigns for the whole year. I thought, I could influence even more, script videos. I love scripting. And when I was at social media, which then ended up being a content engagement team at Universal, I got to script several videos. So now as a copywriter in Popcorn, the in-house agency, I would have the opportunity to script more videos, not also create content and versions of anything that was for the English speaking consumer, but also to create campaigns, which is initially what I actually decided to go into advertising from that first internship that I had, for my favorite team was the creative team, and what I wanted to do since forever was actually to be on an agency in the creative department and concept TV ads, social ads, and the whole marketing and advertising campaign. So that is why I switched to copywriting. They kind of overlap a little bit because I've always been writing content, and that's what I like to do. I like writing and I like being creative. So I think they're a perfect match.
Absolutely. And I think it's a good career path too for maybe someone who is social media. I think everyone thinks they want to work in social media and it's great, but there are other alternatives where you can still be creative and still get to create content, but just do it in a different format. One of the things I would love to know for you in copywriting is, do you have any advice for us on how we can practice becoming better copywriters?
I think it all depends on the concept. And concepting is kind of the first stage before you start writing. Once you get to that idea that has a very strong insight, then you can get to the idea, and then writing comes to you. I think that is the most important part, that concepting, and also having a lot of research first to know who you're speaking to, like the audience, and knowing all the human insights and the behavioral insights of what people would make think. Like, they might think, they look at this ad and they might think, oh, that this is me, this happens to me, but they didn't know until we told them. Those are the strongest ads that I know. It's like comedy, like oh my God, this is so funny because it's true. You see those insights, and just finding that insight and putting that insights into an idea. And once you have the idea, the writing just flows. So
It reminds me of the Albert Einstein quote where it's like, if I had an hour to solve a problem, I'd spend 55 minutes understanding the problem and then 5 minutes solving it. And so maybe similar to copywriting is if you have to write something, instead of just going to the paper and trying to figure out what words to put on it, instead to do the research of understanding who you're talking to, what your goal is, and spending your time just understanding before you actually go in and write. And so I think that's awesome advice. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah, of course.
Okay. I want to also switch gears a little bit and talk about your LinkedIn just for a quick sec, because it's super, super interesting. You have, I think 12 or more recommendations on LinkedIn. How did you get so many, and how could we get more LinkedIn recommendations like you?
Well, just don't be afraid to ask your coworkers. I've been very fortunate to have worked in a lot of places where I've built very good relationships with my coworkers and my former managers. And they're very nice, and they wanted to say nice things about me. So there's an option on LinkedIn when you can ask for a recommendation. So every time I would just ask for a recommendation, and most of the times I would give the recommendation back. I think that is something that, just be yourself, be a nice person. I'm very honest. I like building relationships even more than just a work a working relationship. But I've been very fortunate to also had these great people that I've worked with, and they are very nice because they want to say nice things about me. And I asked them for recommendations, and they did give me the recommendations, and then I gave them back.
That's
So
amazing.
that's, I think, just don't be afraid to ask.
Yeah, I love that. Don't
Sometimes
be afraid to ask.
you'll be impressed of what people think of you. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, that's so nice. I thought like they would be very simple, like, oh yes, I recommend her, but they wrote very nice things about me, and that makes you feel good. that um that's one of the reasons I also went back to Universal, because I love the culture there, the people that I work with, and I think that is one of the most important things for me. It's just the people you work with, they make you feel happy, and you're more productive at the end of the day, because you're spending more time with the people that you work with than actually maybe sometimes with your own family, because so that's a very important thing.
Amazing. And then my last question for you is, how can someone achieve their goals if they're facing adversity? What advice would you give to someone who has difficult obstacles or trying to overcome as they pursue their career goals?
I think you always have to set a goal in your mind, and a clear short-term and midterm and long-term goals, and that's how I've done it. And I've always been I never give up on my dreams or my goals, and I've been very clear on what I want. Even I don't think I've ever achieved things easily or the first time. I've always just be very um I never give up. So for example, in college, I wanted to get into the Model of United Nations. On the third year that I tried out is when I got in. And that was the year that we actually won the whole conference. We went outside to Vancouver, and our university was placed first among 200 universities from around the world. This is a Model of United Nations that um, is organized by Harvard. Then I moved from a country that, is in very bad shape, a dictatorship. I moved out from there with my husband and my 1-year-old with nothing. And we came to this country with only, my knowledge and my will to do things and go after my goals. And I did, and that's how I've grown. And I've been, I I never give up. Even I've heard a bunch of no's, a bunch of no's all the time, but just never give up and just always think positive, because having a positive mindset and going uh, behind after your goals, it's the most important. So just have clear goals. I think that is important, because if you know where you want to be, then it's easier for you to kind of create a path or go after these goals. If you don't know where you want to be, it's harder, I guess. And everything will happen for a reason at the same time, and everything will happen when it needs to happen. You just need to be consistent and, work towards it, and have patience too.
Yes, that is such helpful advice. I think knowing what you want is so important. And I think people vaguely know what they want, like, oh, I want to like get promoted, but that you should want more than that, right? You should have an end goal of other than just getting paid more, getting a higher title. And then I also love what you say there about that you've been told no so many times, and you say it with a smile on your face. And I love that, because I think that rejection should just be part of, or it is part of the process, but so many people take those no's so personally of, oh, if I was told no, then that means that I must be less than, or that means that I'm not enough, or that means that I'm not going to make it. But instead, just accepting them as that's just part of the process of getting to where I want to go. And that even if I hear a no, that doesn't mean it's a no forever. It's just a no for this specific opportunity or right now, but not giving up is so important. And so I love that you said that. Thank you so much.
I read the other day on LinkedIn that rejection is redirection. And I really think it is. Um, you just, and when if you're looking for a job and you want to stand out, just not only send out your application, just do a little networking or research your hiring manager if you can, and then send them a message or a DM, or if you have the email, send them, introduce yourself through an email. Never be scared of that. That could, lead to a lot of open doors. Don't be scared to ask. Don't be scared to reach out, because sometimes they don't even will get to see your resume. So that has helped me a lot too in searching and for jobs, and just creating that connection and talking to this person and saying, hey, I'm here and this is why I've been good. Sometimes they would, say no, but a lot of times, or most of the times, it had at least gotten me an interview. So
Yeah.
that opens a
Yeah.
lot of doors for you.
Amazing. Okay, well, I think we are up on time here. Thank you so much for letting me walk through your incredible journey and for sharing some advice with us. It was so much fun chatting with you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. It was so fun to be here. It's my first podcast.